Author Zukiswa Wanner was one of the 6 South African activists who joined hundreds of others from across the globe who attempted to deliver aid to Palestinians facing genocide in Gaza by sea. Now, nearing Gaza, the boats were intercepted by Israeli forces, and the world watched nervously as the activists were removed from their boats and jailed until they were deported from Israel. Ahead of her journey with the Global Sumud Flotilla, Wanner wrote an elaborate lost diary entry explaining why she sailed to Gaza. And she joins us now to tell us more about the journey. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika and welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me, Ms. Chava. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, firstly, the biggest question on everyone's mind is, of course, what led you personally to sail to Gaza?
I think we sort of kind of forget how, as South Africans, we got international solidarity from everybody in order to get to that 1994 moment. But in addition, there is some way that we are also complicit as a country. I don't know whether you know this, but the National Prosecuting Authority has received over 50 files of South Africans who have taken part in the genocide in Gaza. They have filed it, they have documented it, and yet nobody has been prosecuted yet. So we are as responsible as everybody else. But secondly, I think it's really hectic when you're a person to see people being starved and you know you live in a world that's full of food.
Sure. How did this actually come about and how long was it in planning?
So initially, there have been previous flotillas, but in about June, there was the global movement to global march to Gaza in Egypt, and that was blocked by the Egyptian government. There were over 4,000 people who actually went to Egypt to try and break that siege of Gaza using the land. And then the organizers of Freedom Flotilla, of Global March to Gaza, and others then organized Global Sumud Flotilla with other people, and they asked many people from across the world. And this was obviously the biggest attempt at a flotilla with over 40 boats, and about 400, initially started with 535 people. Some got evacuated because of being ill, and then ended with about 496 people. But the height of how devastated everybody has been, Ms. Chava, is that 30,000 people applied to be part of that flotilla from across the world.
Now, I mean, this obviously is a very dangerous mission. We cannot deny this. And you would have known, of course. How did you prepare your family? And we will talk about that moment where the Israeli forces intercepted the flotilla, which must have been very scary, I would imagine. Your son was also very vocal, in that moment when the world was watching. But how did you prepare your family for this mission?
I think this is something that my son has grown up seeing, because my mother talks a lot about social justice. I was raised in that type of family where, injustice to another person is an injustice to us all. And so my son has been raised to also think like that. And he was, I think, feeling it as much as I was, and probably, if he could, he would also have, if he hadn't hurt his leg, he probably would have also applied to go to it. So
like mother, like son.
so there was that, but I think also just explaining to them. I was in Brazil in June, so I didn't take part in the Global March to Gaza, and when I was there, I saw the parallels between South Africa and Brazil. And the parallels, of course, Ms. Chaba, being that in Brazil is the exceptional Latin American country, just as South Africa thinks it's the exceptional African country. And so we are told, you don't have a job, or life is unsuccessful, or you can't get a place in hospital because it's the Zimbabweans, it's the Mozambicans, it's Basotho. And then in Brazil, it's like, it's the Haitians, it's the Venezuelans, it's the Chileans. And it's at that moment in time that I realized that we all are splintered at the bottom, blaming each other, but global capital is always together.
Sure.
They work together.
Right. So take us to, back to the flotilla. What was the atmosphere like? I mean, what was the mood among activists? And if there are any memorable moments that stood out for you?
Oh, absolutely. It was where people were united in purpose and they wanted to do something together. I remember arriving in Tunis, which is where we left from, and most of us on Team South Africa, apart from Carrie, arriving in Tunis and just the way the Tunisians welcomed us and talked about how South Africa, everybody was like, thank you, South Africa, for the ICC and ICJ case, And I remember at one time, because we're delayed in our departure after the attack, the drone attack on two of the boats. The delay, then we had to move accommodation and we're staying elsewhere as we had a house for the boys and a house for the girls. And one moment, Zahira went to buy a few essentials, milk, bread, etc. And when they found out that he was South African, the shopkeeper said, no, please don't pay any money. Oh. It was just that level of everybody working together and realizing the importance of the moment. And there was also like on the boat where, as far as we were concerned, we were getting to Gaza. And in fact, we got intercepted when on 28 nautical miles from Gaza.
Oh, let's talk about that moment. Before it happened, did you sense any type of danger, or was it just hope at sea? And tell me about that exact moment and what was going on in your mind as your flotilla was being intercepted by Israeli forces.
Okay, so I actually just published the very last journal entry on that one yesterday. And what happened was they came and kind of scared us. And of course, we knew, like, we had lawyers like Joe Bloom, a whole lot of other international lawyers telling us, legally, you're in international waters, so it's actually fine. And we went, they came through, they escaped, they came through, they splashed water on us, and at that point in time, we thought they were actually coming. And so what we did is we dumped our phones in the water. And
you dumped your phones in the water?
We dumped our phones in the water at that moment. And the reason we did that is we didn't want them to intercept us with our phones so that they can find information about our family members, they can find information about our friends, our associates, whatever it is that we've been discussing about, and probably catch the other people on other boats. So we did that. They didn't come that evening. They caught a whole lot of people, but we were we're sitting there and we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And in the morning, one of the people on my boat, Shifa, she went to do the Fajr prayers. And immediately as she was coming back, she said, they're here, they're coming. So we all put on our life jackets and did everything that we're supposed to do as interception protocol. They got in, they had guns, they told us to sit down, they told us to put our hands up. And so, we went surrendering because we have done nothing wrong, but we put our hands up here to show that we don't actually have anything in our hands. And the cameras were still on, so I have been able to see some of the footage from one of my boat mates, Mohammed Mrad from Tunisia. He's an actor. And
the entire world saw that footage. That was really scary.
And we put our hands up, and then they came. They told us to go to the bow of the boat. We had to keep our eyes down, and then they came to each and every one of us, and we had to go to the bow of the ship. And of course, we'd had a problem with our boat because the bilge pump was not working. But now we're like, well, you know what? It's not our problem. It's their problem.
Sure. Some of the activists spoke about how South Africans were particularly targeted because of the ICJ case. Did you feel that way? I
think Mandla was probably the one who got targeted more than anybody else. But as a collective, we were, because they wouldn't allow us to see the embassy officials. And our embassy, of course, we don't have an embassy in Israel. We have an embassy in Palestine, in Ramallah. And they came, I understand, quite a few times trying to see us. And when they finally were allowed to see us on Sunday, we'd been there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. On Sunday, when they came on Sunday, they were given 2 minutes to see us, and we're 6 of us. And we made a noise about it, and we're given 5 extra minutes, but 7 minutes for essentially 6 people to state their case. But essentially, we just wanted to say, let our families know we're okay, we're alive.
My goodness. Did you think you'd make it out of this alive?
I have to tell you something interesting. My son said to me that when we got intercepted, he was more relieved because Israel had been bombing boats with drones and stuff. So he was actually more relieved because then he was like, okay, maybe now they'll just get the boats. At least their bombs won't be. And they had threatened to do that. So I did, I had hope, you know, but to live is to hope.
I'm so glad you made it back safely.
Thank you so
And thank
much.
you so much for your time. I wish we had more time,
Absolutely.
but we're going to have to end it right here. And thank you for your bravery.